I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. The bombshell special purpose grand jury report in Fulton County, Georgia has been released, and the special purpose grand jury actually recommended that more people be indicted than ultimately were asked to be indicted, and that ultimately the grand jury did in fact indict. And so in the special purpose grand jury, we're seeing names like Lindsey Graham, Cleta Mitchell, former Georgia Senator David Perdue, former Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler, all of the fake electors, not just some of the fake electors. And of course, Donald Trump and everybody else who was indicted in Fulton County, Georgia's grand jury proceedings. But in the special purpose grand jury, it recommended that more people be indicted. So let me just break down what took place. Let's go over this report. So Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis utilized a two-step process before getting the indictments from the grand jury on August 14th of 2023. She didn't have to do this two-step process, but she did. First, she impaneled a special purpose grand jury, and this is unique in Georgia. Look, different states have different laws and different rules, but in Georgia, you can have a special purpose grand jury which conducts criminal investigations, and then at the end of the special purpose grand jury's term, it prepares and files a report making recommendations. It doesn't have the power to actually indict. It prepares a report. So the report prepared by this special purpose grand jury is dated December 15th, 2022, and among the people who are recommended for indictments are people like Donald Trump and Giuliani, all of the names we now know that were actually indicted by the grand jury on August 14th, but it also includes names like, as I said, Lindsey Graham, the senator from South Carolina, MAGA Republican, and David Perdue, who's no longer a senator of Georgia, Kelly Loeffler, sometimes referred to as Looting Loeffler, who's no longer the senator from Georgia. Those are some of the very, very big names there. And then you also have all of the fake electors, not just the handful that were brought with the group of 19 in the grand jury proceedings. So after the special purpose grand jury prepared its report, submitted it to Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, December 15, 2022, then she began the process of going before a regular grand jury, and the actual grand, and then what happened between December 2022 and the time period though for the actual grand jury, more investigation. Then you had certain of the fake electors flip. That's why you don't see a lot of them indicted. A lot of them agreed to provide cooperation to Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis against some of the other individuals who then became defendants. That's why they're not named. And then ultimately you had a grand jury that was impaneled by Fulton County District Attorney a few months ago. And then ultimately they made the decision. They voted to indict. Now, Fani Willis can and did show the special purpose grand jury report to the grand jury. And then she can also provide additional evidence. There's also no requirement, actually, that she shows the whole report, parts of the report. It's actually not required that the special purpose grand jury report be showed to the actual grand jury. And then the grand jury, though, I mean, for all we know, the grand jury could have just actually ignored the special purpose grand jury report and made its own independent findings. And of course, Fani Willis put on new witnesses as well in front of the grand jury, in addition to witnesses who testified before the special purpose grand jury. So why was it that Lindsey Graham, and I'm going to go through key portions of this report in just a moment. Why was it that Lindsey Graham, Cleta Mitchell, Kelly Loeffler, David Perdue, the fake electors, are recommended for being indicted, in addition to Donald Trump and everybody else, in the special purpose grand jury report, but why weren't they indicted in the grand jury report? Well, that's because exercising prosecutorial discretion, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis made certain decisions. Decision one, let's talk about Lindsey Graham. So if you indicted Lindsey Graham as the special purpose grand jury wanted, you would be dealing with a lot of constitutional immunity challenges. It would then also confer jurisdiction for people like Jim Jordan to try to interfere with the investigations, as he's trying to do now, but he's ultimately going to fail at it now because Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis made the right calls. And then ultimately Fani Willis would be bogged down because of bringing Lindsey Graham into this, into protracted litigation and appeals, which would slow down everything. And she was already taking and has taken an appropriately big swing with all of the defendants who she ended up seeking indictments for and ultimately who were indicted. So that's why Lindsey Graham would assert speech or debate clause, and and ultimately I think Lindsey Graham would lose, but could that drag out the case regarding many of the other co-defendants for a long period of time? I think it would have that effect. I think she exercised prosecutorial discretion to do that. Heart health and staying healthy, especially when you have a family that you want to be able to spend as much time with as possible, is so important. We all have a heartfelt reason to support our blood pressure. In fact, more than half of the U.S. population would benefit from blood pressure support. Super Beets Heart Chews are an easy and convenient way to support healthy blood pressure, and they promote heart-healthy energy. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in Super Beets are clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. And with over 30,000 5-star reviews and counting, Super Beets Heart Chews are having their moment. Super Beets Heart Chews are incredibly delicious and so much better than any alternative supplements out there. I take my Super Beet Heart Chews each morning, and it's really kickstarted my morning routine. After taking my Super Beets Heart Chews, I feel like I have more energy and am ready to take on the day. Super Beets Heart Chews are effective and clinically studied. They are the #1 pharmacist recommended beet brand for cardiovascular health support. It's blood pressure support you can trust. Double your potential with Super Beets Heart Chews. Get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets Heart Chews and 15% off your first order by going to getsuperbeets.com and use the promo code Meidas. That's getsuperbeets.com and use the code Meidas. And now back to the show. Same thing, I think, with Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. Remember at the time they lost their elections then, but at the time they were still holding those positions and disgracing our country as being senators. So I think that's why that grouping, Cleta Mitchell, is an interesting one. Why there wasn't a decision to indict her. She was on the phone calls with Donald Trump where he threatened. She's a lawyer for Donald Trump. So that one is a bit surprising, Cleta Mitchell, because Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis indicted many of the other lawyers like Ken Chesborough and John Eastman and Giuliani, but made the decision not to indict Cleta Mitchell. Maybe she thought that would harm the credibility of the cases against some of the other defendant lawyers who acted more egregiously. And Cleta Mitchell may have been on these phone calls, but didn't necessarily provide memos like Giuliani, Eastman, Chesborough, and others did, of like, here's how you overthrow the democracy type of memo. So that's probably why Cleta Mitchell. And then the fake electors weren't ultimately included because, a lot of the fake electors flipped on each other. So the ones that cooperated didn't get indicted. So that basically explains it all. And so if you just go through this report right now, you can see how it's drafted. And there was an order today entering the special purpose grand jury's final report into the court record. So it became a public record today, and talks about how the special purpose grand jury was impaneled pursuant to an order dated January 24th, 2022 by the chief judge in Fulton County. The grand jury consisted of 26 Fulton County residents, 3 of whom were alternates. On any day's testimony was received or deliberations were had, the number of jurors present ranged between 16 and 24 as availability allowed. Pursuant to statute, if we had our needed quorum of 16 jurors present, we could do business with that. The grand jury was impaneled to investigate the specific issue, the facts and circumstances relating directly or indirectly to possible attempts to disrupt the lawful administration of the 2020 presidential election. The grand jury was selected on May 2nd. Its first heard evidence on June 1st of 2022, and it received information into December of 2022. The grand jury received evidence from 75 witnesses during the course of the investigation, the overwhelming majority of which information was delivered in person under oath. The grand jury also received information in the form of investigator testimony. Following is the final report of the special purpose grand jury. We set forth for the court our recommendations, and it talks about where there's yays, nays, and abstain format throughout, and the total number of grand jurors who voted for each. And then it says the grand jury heard extensive testimony on the subject of alleged election fraud from poll workers, investigators, technical experts, and state of Georgia employees and officials, as well as from persons still claiming that such fraud took place. We find by unanimous vote that no widespread fraud took place in the Georgia 2020 presidential election that could result in overturning the election. So all members of the panel agreed with that, which is notable because there was even 1 or 2 holdouts in some of the various statutes, criminal statutes against the individuals being indicted, including even Donald Trump. So they all agreed, though, that there was no fraud capable of overturning the election. So then it says, with respect to the January 2nd, 2021 phone call from Trump to Secretary of State Raffensperger, the grand jury recommends the district attorney seek indictments against the following individuals: Donald Trump, and then it lists the other individuals who it recommends it against. And you see here, though, for example, on a lot of these votes, some of the statutes are unanimous, like 18-0. Some of them, there's 1 holdout, 21-1. That's for purposes of a grand jury. That is perfectly fine. But there are a lot of charges that were unanimous, for example. And then, you have, you go down throughout, trying to overthrow the election, the Georgia legislative sessions that were impaneled to try to stop the actual electors, and then it goes on and lists everybody in the various counts, but it includes those additional individuals that I mentioned at the outset. So a lot of unanimous. Sometimes there was 1 holdout, but ultimately you utilize these recommendations, right? Because that's what they are, they're recommendations. Then Fulton County District Attorney Phony Willis in August sought the indictment of the 19 defendants, including Donald Trump, and got those. So that's why some of those other individuals are not in the most recent indictment, the strategic prosecutorial discretion. I think Fulton County District Attorney Phony Willis made the right call. Tell me what you think. Go to MeidasTouch.com for more. We break it down there as well. And check out our Patreon, patreon.com/MeidasTouch, MeidasTouch. Have a great day.
Hey, Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.